Lazarus is El-Asar-us? Yeah, what's going on, party people? The place to be. I go by the name of the BK Apologist, transmitting all the way live. New York is the city. Brooklyn is the borough. What's good? What's popping? Hope everybody's doing really well. Um, if you have not yet already, please, by all means, like, share, and subscribe. Please share the link. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's him again. And if you like how it goes down with the BK, please show your love by supporting him via the PayPal link pinned at the top of the chat. And if you'd like to be a monthly supporter of BK, you could become a Patreon. We get assortment of goodies to enhance your personal Bible study. What's going on, everybody? Seeing the people coming up in the chat. We got Adela Armstrong in the building. We got DFC in the building. Good to have you guys. Definitely appreciate it. And again, please, guys, share the link throughout your prospective dwellings on this here interwebs. Would greatly appreciate that. Matthew in the building. What up, Cuzzo? Always good to see you. We're gonna wait for a couple seconds so the party people get into the chat. Please tell a friend to tell a friend that it's your friendly neighborhood urban apologist in the building. So yes, let me get this ready. All right, so let me share my screen. So today we are addressing this claim that Lazarus is, well, before I even get into that. So as many of you know, one of the critiques people have made about the Bible that, it is a complete ripoff, right? It's plagiarism at its most heinous, right? And that the Bible gets pretty much everything from ancient Kemetic Egyptian spirituality. And a lot of us have heard, the whole Jesus being Horus, right? Issue, but or Jesus being Barabbas. But it's not only Jesus that seems to have stolen other people's identity. Lazarus has also been a culprit somehow, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, there's a book, quite a well-known book, called Ancient Egypt by the Light of the World by Gerald Massey. Many of those who critique the Bible quote from this individual. If you ever seen the documentary Zeitgeist, Mr. Massey is quoted quite a bit in that documentary. Now, of course, that documentary and its sources has been debunked time and time again, but as the zombies, it keeps coming back even though it's dead. Right? So this is the claim that Mr. Massey makes in his book, Origin of the Name Lazarus. The Osiris, which passed into the article Al for the in Arabic, and was prefixed to the name Osiris as El-Asar, which with the Greek S for suffix becomes El-Asar-us, the connecting link whereby Al-Asar was turned into Lazarus the Osiris. So Lazarus supposedly comes from the Osiris, right? So we're going to see if that's true. And to do that, we're going to look at an amazing book. I highly recommend this book. It's The Unmasking of the Pagan Christ, an evangelical response to the cosmic Christ idea by Stanley E. Porter and Stephen J. Bedard. So we're going to look at this here. So while Harper generally shows some much needed restraint in reproducing Alvin Boyd Kuhn's radical etymologies, he does fall into Kuhn's error in trying to find an Egyptian origin for the raising of Lazarus as described in John 11. Harper begins with an attempt to make Bethany, the home of Lazarus, Mary, and Martha, into a reference to the Egyptian city of Anu, where the resurrections of Osiris or Horus were enacted each year by combining the Hebrew Bet, house, with the Egyptian Anu, not nothingness. Harper then goes on to repeat Kuhn's creative linguistics with the following description. And he goes and quotes Mr. Kuhn here. The Egyptians regularly expressed their reverence by placing the definite article "the" before the names of their gods. Just as Christians say or should say "the Christ," the Egyptians said "the Osiris." But that was the equivalent of saying Lord Osiris. When the Hebrews took up the name of the Osiris or Lord Osiris, they used the Hebrew word for Lord, El, hence El-Asar. Later on, the Romans, speaking Latin, of course, took El-Asar and added the us ending used for most male names. The result was El-Asar-us. In time, the initial E wore off, quote unquote, as linguists describe it, and the S in Asar changed to Z. Its constant companion in language. Thus, we have Lazarus, the Osiris of Beth Anu story. Now, if this is true, and since we know there is an important Egyptian myth of Horus raising Osiris, Harper would seem to have provided clear evidence for an Egyptian origin of a story found within the Gospel of John, right down to the names. Let us see Harper's claim hold up to the evidence. I see we got the incomparable, the indelible Natu D2 has entered the chat. What's going on, sir? We will begin with Harper's claim that Bethany is used to point to the Egyptian city of Anu and thus the resurrection of Osiris that was celebrated there. The problem with this is that Bethany does not appear only in connection with the raising of Lazarus, nor does it appear only in John. In the other Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Bethany appears as the place from which Jesus prepares for the triumphal entry, the place which Jesus was coming when he cursed the fig tree, and the place where Jesus was anointed before his death. So we see this place mentioned quite a bit in the Gospels. Bethany was not a theological construct to make the reader think of the resurrection of Osiris, but was a Jewish town near Jerusalem, where Jesus spent time near the end of his ministry. This town continues to exist today and is known by its Arabic name, El-Azariah, indicating its connection to the biblical Lazarus. So instead of this ripoff from Lazarus to Egypt, the town is actually named after Lazarus. And the town exists today. And here's a picture of it. This is Bethany, modern day Bethany. It still exists. People still live there. It's easy to fact check. It's here. It's not a theological construct. It's an actual place in Israel. And here it is. Real buildings, trees. It's a place. It's an actual place. You can visit here. You can take a plane and come and be there. Okay. Now let's take a look at Harper's attempt to make Lazarus a derivation of the Lord Osiris. Notice that Harper discreetly makes a reference to Kuhn's ridiculous attempt to equate the definite article "the" with God. Harper is correct in stating that Asar is the Egyptian name for Osiris, but the rest of his argument quickly falls apart. The use of the definite article with the name of the god misses a number of points. Yes, quote, the Christ is an appropriate way to describe Jesus, but not as an expression of reference, but rather because Christ is a title, meaning anointed one, and not a name, right? Many of us, I hope, know that. You know, when people say Jesus Christ, that's not his last name, that's his title. Yes, quote, the Osiris was also used, but not for the god Osiris. His name, not his title. but for each dead person who hoped to experience the same resurrection as Osiris was therefore called the Osiris, right? He was never called the Osiris, like the actual God. It's people who going through the Egyptian underworld called the Duat, using these spells from the Perep Heru, right, the Book of the Dead. They would have to transform themselves into Osiris. So it's in those spells that you will see the term the Osiris, because the person has to become the Osiris to get through the underworld. Harper is incorrect in claiming that the Hebrew El means Lord, as it actually means God. The amount of linguistic gymnastics required to explain a story written in Greek by combining Hebrew, Egyptian, and Latin languages into one name clearly demonstrates the forced nature of this argument. So it's basically a Frankenstein linguistical faux pas. You know what I mean? It's just not good here. Is the rejection of Lazarus as a reference to the rising of Osiris just a stubborn refusal of traditional biblical interpreters? Possibly, if John 11 was the only place the name Lazarus appeared. But another person named Lazarus also appears in Luke 16, 19 to 31. This is the famous story of the rich man and poor Lazarus, who both died and experienced an afterlife exactly the opposite of their earthly life. This is extremely significant for the current discussion in which the rich man asks that Lazarus be resurrected so that he could warn the rich man's family of the danger of their extravagant and selfish lifestyle. The request to resurrect Lazarus was rejected because it was known that even a resurrection would not turn their lives around. The fact that the name Lazarus was used in a story where resurrection was explicitly denied proved that the name was not created to illustrate the fabled resurrection of Osiris. Right? This kills the whole idea. I mean, linguistically, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because you're cobbling together these different languages to make this Frankenstein concept. But even if we was to take it there and say, all right, it's fine, Lazarus or Osiris, well, this guy was denied resurrection. So how is this the same person then? Even if he's going to take it to that level, right? This right here bodies that whole situation. The traditional explanation that Lazarus is a form of the Old Testament El-Asar, meaning God has help, makes much more sense. It's also interesting to note that in 1873, the names of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus were found in ossuary inscriptions in the tomb near Bethany. While these inscriptions may not be referring to the particular biblical family, it does clearly demonstrate that the presence of Lazarus at Bethany does not require dependence on the Osiris myth. So the fact that they found the actual name Lazarus at the actual town that exists at Bethany, right, also destroys that as well. Right? So the name actually comes from the Hebrew and it's found in the inscription at the physical place called Bethany. The importance of Horus' role as avenger is seen in Plutarch's account. While still dead, Osiris asked Horus what the most noble of all things was. Horus replied, to avenge one's father and mother for evil done to them. Plutarch goes on to describe Horus' battle with Typhon/Seth and how his mother Isis offered Typhon mercy. Horus was so enraged that he attacked his own mother. I don't know if many of you guys know that. An early pyramid text shows Horus' presentation of the captured Seth to Osiris in this way. Quote, Horus has come that he may claim thee. He has smitten Seth for thee, bound, thou being a possession of his Ka. Horus has caused him to be seized for thee, thou being greater than he. Some of the Egyptian accounts of the battle between Horus and Seth are quite graphic and violent, even including descriptions of homosexual rape in some versions, as well as Horus' decapitation of his mother Isis. Does this sound like Lazarus, the story of Lazarus in the Bible? Do we see Lazarus decapitating his mom? Do we see Lazarus engaging in some shenanigans with another male. We don't see none of that. We don't see none of that. Yes. It's what we call a reach. Mr. Fantastic style, bro. On some Reed Richards. You know? Are there people out there equating Lazarus with Osiris or Asar? Yes. Yes. Albert Boyne Kuhn, Harper, and Gerald Massey, to name a few, have made this claim. And it's no, there is no such correlation whatsoever. Right? Lazarus is not El-Asar-us. It doesn't. Bethany is a real place. Lazarus is not the linguistic connection to El-Asar, us. And we see a Lazarus in the Gospels who's actually denied resurrection. Not the same Lazarus, of course, that Jesus raised from the dead, but it's a different Lazarus. So it just doesn't, it doesn't, it doesn't connect whatsoever. So as always, if you see anybody trying to make this argument, please feel free to share this video. It's a short video, and so people can stop making this horrible argument. Right? So just wanted to share that with you guys. So with that being said, this is BK signing off. Peace.